Having more energy for parenting is something we probably all want. Our kids can easily suck the life right out of us because they need a lot. It's super easy to give it all you've got on a daily basis until there is just nothing left in the tank, and over time, we feel more and more burnt out. While this is a very valiant effort and really an incredibly worthy cause of our energy, I don't think it has to be this way. I don't think we as parents always need to go without for the sake of our kids. If you are looking for a win-win solution where you can meet your own needs so that you can better meet your kids' needs, that's what we're talking about today. Hello, I'm Cassie from Custom Built Parenthood. I'm a mama to 3 kids, ages 7, 5, and 1, and I have just always loved all things child development. If you're new here and want to join us on this journey of finding happiness in parenting and just learning more about our kids, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, hit the bell, and feel free to share what you have learned so far in your parenting journey. So when I was talking about getting stuff done with a toddler, we started just scratching the surface a bit on self-care as parents. We were talking about making sure that we get me time throughout the day and that hopefully we were not always just checking things off our to-do list frantically during those times, but actually using it to recharge our batteries. Don't you want time to actually feel human? And beyond that, to actually feel like yourself as a person, as an individual? Finding things that energize you, make you feel alive and excited, and honestly just make life worth living? I think that self-care is the answer. Self-care is the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. The goal is to be taking better care of ourselves, and we do this by having balance in our lives. So there are 5 areas we'll be talking about today. There's physical, mental, social, spiritual, and emotional. I'm gonna just go through each one of these and explain what it is and give a bunch of ideas to get you started. The goal in a perfect world is to spend a little bit of time each day in each of these areas, but before you freak out or get overwhelmed, just stick around till the end. I will make it really easy to do. So let's start with physical self-care because it seems like the most straightforward and just the easiest to understand, in my opinion. Staying physically healthy as a parent can be very difficult. We are so aware and concerned about our responsibility to help our kids be physically healthy that it can easily just be an afterthought to think about our own physical health. Are our kids eating enough? Are they getting enough water, getting enough sleep? Do they move their bodies enough? All of these are very valid concerns to have as a parent. And for a lot of us, we're not taking this same amount of time and energy putting that thought into our own health. So let's just take a minute together right now to go through the key points of this category, which I think are eating, sleeping, and exercise. For some of you, physical health is already a priority to you. You love cooking and eating healthy, or it's really fun for you to exercise, so you take your physical health really seriously, and naturally, it's built into your everyday routine. For the rest of us that aren't in this place right now, let's brainstorm some ways to take a little bit of time each day, just a little bit more effort, to be practicing some physical self-care. Okay, so eating. You could come at this from a lot of different angles. Remember, the goal is just to preserve or improve our health. So my kids and I the last couple of weeks have been working on our water intake. We each have a glass during meals and snacks, and that's a great way to just gradually start working on physical self-care. So meals is another thing. Let's just start by making sure we're having them. Meal times and kids are not always a great combination, and really we don't always have the chance to eat, I feel like, when that's the combination that's going on. At least for me, I find myself getting up and down throughout the whole meal, just helping everyone get what they need, or cutting their food for them, or feeding the baby. There's just a lot going on, and I'm not really focused on eating myself always. So something that I've done occasionally for breakfasts and lunches especially is tried eating my food either before or after my kids are eating theirs. So if I make lunch, for instance, and all my kids are happy just playing upstairs, then I will actually sit and eat my food before I even call them down to eat their food. And that can really work, or vice versa. Let your kids eat and just be present with them, be talking, be helping, and then once they're done with their food and clear their dishes, then you just sit in peace and just have your meal. So you might find that's worth a try if you're finding it's hard to eat your meals, because that's important. We need to be fueling our bodies, obviously. And then, of course, I'm sure we can all improve on the actual food we're eating. I've just been taking small steps to add in more and more recipes for dinner. At least that's my focus right now. Using fresh ingredients. So I actually got this book. I think I have it, yeah. I got this book from the library recently. Can you guys see that? It's phenomenal. I've actually really enjoyed it. I might just have to buy it when I have to return this because it's been really good. I will put it in the description below. It just has simple, healthy recipes, and it does accommodate for a lot of different diet restrictions if that's part of your family, so you might check that one out. As for sleep, my best advice would probably be to just make sure that your kids have an early enough bedtime so that you have enough time after that to unwind and get what you need to done so that you can go to bed at a decent time. I know all of our circumstances won't allow that, but just try to make sleep a priority. Some other suggestions, just listen and pick out anything that's applicable or helpful to you. I'll just kind of list them off. So sleep train your baby if you haven't already, or same with your toddler, sleep train them if they haven't already. Use blackout curtains or blinds in your bedroom, and then avoid screens before bed. Those would be probably my best tips, other tips for sleep. Oh, exercise. This one has been very off and on again throughout my parenting career because it really is so tricky with little ones. Let me know in the comments below your solutions because it's hard. There's been times that I'm really good and way into going for walks with my kids, but then the weather changes and so it kind of fizzles during the colder months, so it doesn't really work for me all year round. I do really enjoy doing at-home workout videos, but right now, these have not been working for me just with my current stage of life, my kids' ages or something. I'm not sure what the problem is. My take on this right now is just the goal is to really get your body moving at some point during the day. So you could start by going for a walk every day. Just put your kids in the stroller or let them ride their bikes or whatever works for you just to get out of the house, get moving. But if this ends up being a total disaster every time, because let's be honest, it can be way more frustrating than helpful sometimes if your kids aren't cooperating with this, in which case you could just run the stairs in your house or jump rope in the kitchen, take some laps around like the biggest area of your house, jog in place, or my favorite, just blast some music and have a little dance party with your kids. You could stretch during a phone call or during something else that you're doing every day. If you're always out and about, just park further away from the building, wherever it is that you're going, so that you can get some extra walking in. There are a ton of great ideas out there. Just start being more mindful about it and implement whatever works for you in your current stage. Okay, so that's all physical self-care. Next, let's talk about challenging your mind as a parent, or in other words, mental self-care. This is going to be anything that just strengthens your mind and makes you think. So we might not realize the importance of doing this, but it really is super valuable and actually quite rewarding, in my opinion. You might enjoy sitting at the table, working on a jigsaw puzzle, or filling out a crossword or a Sudoku. There might be a topic that is really so interesting to you that you want to learn about in books, or having conversations with people about it, watching something informative. Maybe reading a fiction book with a fun story is something you really enjoy doing. Or another approach, if all of this is just a little off-putting so far, would be to figure out how to stay mentally healthy. So work on things like your mindset and your perspective on your kids or yourself or the world in general, or the inner dialogue that you have with yourself. So working on self-acceptance, getting a little more grounded in reality or truths to stay present in the moment instead of worried about the past or the future. All of these, in my opinion, can fall under this mental category. We're trying to be mentally stronger. So I would say that this mental category is actually the most natural for me to incorporate into my life. I would guess that we all, going through this list, will have one or two of these 5 categories that just we're already making a priority. We enjoy it, so we're making it happen more than the other areas. So learning and progression has just always been something that's important to me, and it's honestly just fun to me, and I'm naturally incorporating that into my days. So For me, I kind of go through phases. There are times when I'm super into gaining new knowledge on parenting. Usually there's something new happening with my kids or a new struggle that I'm having as the parent, so I'm just trying to figure it out. So I'm just devouring all this information and kind of figuring it out. Then there's times when I'm wanting to just try something new, and I always just go all in. So my husband and I decided to build our own house 3 years ago now. So for a good solid 2 years, that was all consuming of my life as I learned like the millions of things that you need to do when you're an owner builder. Deciding to do our backyard farm was another couple year project that I just soaked up all the information I could in learning and experiencing those things. So mental for me just means challenging our mind, learning, and in my case, expanding my horizons by experiencing new things. Our third category is social. Being socially connected as a parent is especially important, I think, because parenting can feel really isolating. If we're home all day with our kids especially, we crave adult interaction, don't we? If we're struggling with something with our kids or with parenting, we might feel like we are the only person out there in the whole world having such a hard time with it. Again, super isolating and totally not true. Social self-care is all about developing and strengthening the relationships that we have with other people. Part of this category is also establishing boundaries with people when we need them. So a few ideas of what this might look like on a daily basis. Maybe you have a phone call with your sister or your mom or a friend. Maybe you plan regular play dates with a neighbor or a friend where you can come and chit-chat while your kids play. Or having a weekly date night with your spouse, or a regular girls' night out. All of these are great options. It's also quite possible that for your social self-care, you're needing to remove some negativity by creating some boundaries. So if there are relationships or people who just drain your energy, think about how you can handle that. Sometimes we can avoid interactions with these people who only bring negativity. Sometimes we can have a genuine conversation with them, establishing what needs to change for us in the relationship. I can tell you from my own personal experience that it is so worth having the courage to be true to your feelings. If a person or relationship is not adding to your life, do something about it. It's probably going to be really hard, maybe a little bit uncomfortable, and you certainly don't need to be rude about it, but just honor this self-care and you will feel the benefit in your life and the importance of having boundaries. Like the other categories, social self-care will look differently for all of us. Some of us have a few really close friends and are pretty much just good to go with incorporating some time with those people. Others might be really extroverted and need a lot more hours in the week building social relationships and just interacting with people in general. As for the boundaries, no matter what our personality is, I do think we all benefit from learning to say no to people, learning to not engage with people who only ever bring us down. It is so important to our social self-care to only spend time with people who lift us up as opposed to tearing us down. Okay, so our fourth category is spiritual. What's spiritual self-care? It's having a deeper sense of meaning, purpose, and connection outside of ourselves. We need to spend some time every day thinking bigger than ourselves. If you're religious, that would obviously fall in this category. So praying, reading scripture, attending services. But even if you're not, research says that when our lifestyle includes spirituality, it's typically healthier. So being in nature, meditating, self-reflection, whatever helps you think bigger than yourself. This is my other category, along with the mental category, that is very easy for me to consistently incorporate into my life. I was raised in a very religious household my whole life, and my faith and my religion is really important to me. So daily prayer and scripture study has just always been a part of my life and in my everyday routine. Some seasons of life obviously allow for more time than others, but this spiritual aspect of my life brings me a ton of happiness and balance. So again, yours might look differently. We all have certain things that are just easier or harder, and that's totally okay. That's what's so unique and awesome about all of us as individuals. So the last category is emotional. The importance of emotional self-care cannot be understated. I'm sure it's just because of the stage of life I'm in right now, but seriously, if we don't have emotional health, the rest of our life seems to just fall apart. For me, this category is a lot harder to wrap my mind around. It just doesn't come naturally to me personally, but it just means being connected to how you feel and processing those emotions. So first, let's talk about positive emotions. Focusing on this category, so this emotional self-care, could look like knowing and implementing something that makes you really happy and rejuvenates you. So maybe you just love listening to a certain podcast. Maybe you feel so happy when you're doing something crafty. Maybe it brings you so much joy working in your garden or playing a sport or talking to somebody. All of these add tremendous happiness and fulfillment in your life, which should be prioritized each and every day. We all deserve and need the opportunity to do whatever recharges us. So what about all those difficult emotions? Anger, frustration, sadness. Emotional self-care also means having coping skills to deal with these hard emotions. So maybe you work on being more open with people so that you feel like you can call a friend and vent. Maybe you journal what you're thinking or feeling, or play some music, or ask for some help from somebody. Talking to a therapist would also be emotional self-care. Whatever it looks like, we all need the chance to openly express and work through emotions, positive and negative. My focus in this category lately has been learning to feel the feelings. It started back when I talked about our 1-year-old getting frustrated. I was pulling from the book Yes Brain, and it had that phrase that we should be allowing our child to feel their feelings. And I realized as I've gotten older that I'm really bad at doing this for myself. Uncomfortable feelings can just be inconvenient and unpleasant. I don't want to deal with it, so I'd rather just not go there and carry on with my life. I'm working though on noticing and labeling these feelings and giving myself permission to feel them until I'm ready to choose into gratitude and happiness instead. So this permission can look like taking a minute to cry, or taking an evening off to just veg, or putting off the vacuuming for a whole day to just spend more time playing with my kids if that's what I'm wanting to do. I try more often to let what I'm doing match the emotion that I'm feeling. So we do have the responsibility to be a kind and loving parent always, no matter what. But we can still accomplish that by still honoring our emotions. And like I said, there are boundaries that I can give myself. Like, it's only okay to feel sad today, and then tomorrow I'm gonna push myself toward gratitude and happiness. I don't know, did any of that make sense? I'm sure you guys could teach me way more about emotional self-care, so feel free to share in the comments below. Okay, so we've gone over the 5 areas of self-care. Is anyone out there feeling overwhelmed right now? You're hearing this massive list of things to add to your to-do list, right? Like, what the heck, Cassie? The last thing we want is to walk away from this feeling stressed out. So let's just make it really manageable to take care of yourself as a parent. First, what I want you to do is write down the category that you're just nailing right now. So physical, mental, social, spiritual, emotional, what are you doing right now? We're not looking for perfection at all. Just one area that you can acknowledge that a bit of daily effort is going into it. So for me, that was my mental and spiritual. So awesome. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's a huge win. Good job. You're doing it. Now identify one area that you know is being a little bit neglected and it sounds appealing to you or manageable to you to put some effort into it. So just write that down, whichever category it is. It could be physical, all those options. Write it down and then come up with an idea that you think would be a step in the right direction. So one little daily adjustment that can be incorporated into your everyday. A super helpful trick for establishing a new habit is to attach it to something you're already doing. So if, like me, you've realized that physical self-care has been a little lacking lately, you might just simply commit to drink a big glass of water with every meal. Or do 15 minutes of yoga every morning right after you wake up. I will link the DVD I love for that in the description below if you want. Or maybe you feel like emotionally you need to let yourself feel your feelings a bit more, and so you're going to ask yourself, ask your spouse to listen for 5 minutes every night after the kids are tucked in bed to just how you're feeling. Whatever it is, make this one little adjustment for a few weeks and then move on to another category. You might also realize that activities or practices that you're doing can be accomplishing multiple categories at once. So talking to a close friend could fill you up socially and emotionally, or exercising could recharge you emotionally and physically. There's no right or wrong for any of this. We're just trying to prioritize our overall health and achieve more balance in our life. If we're doing it right, we will have less stress, less anxiety, less depression, and we'll have more happiness, more fulfillment, and more energy. Without a doubt, we will be better parent. And bonus, we will be modeling self-care to our kids and showing them that we deserve their respect because we respect ourselves. You guys are doing awesome. Keep up the hard work, and we will see you next time.